Hey, I'm Sophie Marie Dunning, Miss Supranational England 2021, and you're watching the Pageant and PJs podcast.
Hey everyone, it's Adrian with you from the Pageant Project. We are on episode number, I've forgotten, hang on, let me find out, number 74, and our special guest, as the title says, very helpfully for me, is Miss Supranational England 2021, Sophie Dunning. Sophie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and hello.
You say thank you for having me, but I always say with this, don't thank me just yet. Wait till you finish the hour or so, and then you can see if you want to thank us. Although probably it'll be a very sedate and sane episode because Danielle is not here. Danielle's father drove up to, I don't know, to surprise her. But Danielle's moving into her Barry bungalow. That's the name of the Instagram account. Danny, if you're watching, I hope I got that right. And her dad apparently drove up to surprise her, I think with some tools and stuff to help her move into her new place. That's what she says. I think it might be your dad just wants to make sure that you don't come back. So he's making sure that your new house is nice for you. But that's where Danielle is. And Sophie, I interviewed, it was a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? Or was it a week ago? I can't remember.
Let's say a week and a half.
We
can't be wrong.
how have things been going since the week and a half?
It's been really busy. I know I said at the time I'd spent around 20 hours on the national costume. We can add like another 17 to that. So I actually started making it. Yeah, it's been intense. So I don't want to say what it is just yet because I feel like it needs to be like dripped onto social media, to get sort of the momentum behind it. But it's been hard. It's going well.
Is it sewing? Is it rhinestoning? Is it cutting? What are you doing? What's the actual activity?
So it's cutting, it's making the templates, so making the pattern, cutting, sewing, more templates. So it's been just all of the parts. I know I had already ordered everything, so it was now looking at it and thinking, okay, where do I start? And every time I start something, I'm like, but I want to see what it looks like when that bit's done. So then I go off on a tangent, and then I just drag myself back, and then think, no, just cut all the pieces out, Sophie. So it's been a lot, but I can see where it's going. I can see it coming together now, which is really reassuring.
It's going to be ready on time, right?
100%. I think I'll have about 3 weeks spare at this rate. So,
what date is the internationals?
It's the 21st of August. So we fly out on the 5th.
So close.
I know.
Wow. That's crazy. I always thought the finals were like October, November time usually. Did they change it this year or?
Yeah, this is the first year they've held it in the summer because it's normally a winter pageant. So it's nicer, but I think it's still going to be a little bit chilly and novisage. I hope I'm saying that right. I think it's novisage, but it's their winter when we go, so it might not be snowing. It's going to be a bit cold.
A Polish winter. That just sounds freezing off the face of it. Although I'm not sure if summer is any. What's a Polish summer? Does anyone know? Does it get really hot in Poland in summer?
Yeah.
Or is it...
So I've heard. Well, I work with quite a lot of people who have moved over from Poland, and they say that when it's hot, it's like England but more extreme. So when it's hot, it's really hot, and then when it's cold, it's just freezing. So it's just like us, but a little bit more dramatic.
When you say more extreme, do you mean it's even colder and they still call it hot, or do you mean it's actually genuinely hot? Because for you guys in the UK, anything over 20 is a heat wave.
Yeah, no, it's hot over there when it's warm. It would definitely be a drought over here.
Danielle has said that, I had this up for a while, she said she's here live from an Italian restaurant while my dad goes to the bathroom. Say hi to your dad. Where's Thomas? Is Thomas looking after himself tonight? You can't trust Thomas to be home. That's the name of his cat, Sophie, if you're wondering who Thomas is. Can't
I
leave
still laugh
Thomas all home by himself.
at the tuna
Laugh at what?
can.
Oh, yeah. Danielle, because she misses Thomas because
Cries.
she's moved to Wales. Yeah, she opens tuna cans and just starts crying because it reminds her of Thomas. So now that Danielle is here, we can make fun of her. And she said, I'm excited to see this national dress. So, Sophie, have you and Danielle touched base about pageant styling? Because I know that we were talking about that last time. Have you guys managed to get in contact?
Not yet. It's one of the many things on my list, though. I desperately need to get in contact with you, Danielle. It's
Okay,
just
so
my week's been a blur.
yeah, I know what that's like. So, Danielle, get in touch with Sophie. Sophie, get in touch with Danielle, and you guys can have a chat. So that's what Sophie's been up to. Sounds like she's busy putting together her national dress, doing a lot of cutting and a lot of sewing. Chloe, what have you been up to? We didn't have you on last week because you had your big interview. So what's been the goss over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I have graduated from uni. I'm now a fully qualified civil engineer, and I'm just at that stage in life where I'm trying to figure out what to do next. Do I do a master's? Do I not do a master's? Do I do one master's? Do I do another? Yeah, I just have so many different options right now, so many different paths I'm considering going down. I don't know whether to do a master's in project management or project management with them. So yeah, it's just really waiting it out and seeing like what steps I take next. Do I just apply for graduate jobs? I think that age when you come out of university is always a tough one because you always try and figure out whether or not you should still stay at uni for an extra year or just give in
Mm.
to the 9 to 5 life. Which I have been working the past while anyway, whilst I was finishing my dissertation there. I've been working a 9 to 5 job for a while, and it's kind of making me realize I miss uni a little. So, yeah, it's just trying to figure out the next move. It's funny being that age, when you finish university and you have to go into the big bad world and you're not too sure on where to go. So, yeah, I'm just finding my feet at the moment, and I'm sure whatever's meant for me won't pass me by.
Sorry, I'm just trying to move my camera closer to me so I don't look quite so shiny. So just bear with me whilst I jostle you guys around. Do you want to explain to the people watching what BIM is? Because no, I don't think most of them will know what BIM is. Oh, God.
Oh, it's building information modeling. So it's kind of like a 3D virtual tour of like a construction project before it even happens. So you see that a lot now in the construction industry, and it's quite cool. It's very futuristic, and yeah, I feel like most construction companies in the future will have it. So it's probably I am leaning towards doing that master's rather than the plain project management one, because I suppose it's nice to have that experience too. But we'll see.
You like your future tech and your future gadgets. You're a big fan of Elon Musk. So I don't know if most people will know that because we don't talk about it very much. But how long have you been following Elon for? Because you sent me that podcast when he was on Joe Rogan to
Yeah,
watch.
I actually watched it like a good few months ago. I thought that was quite interesting. The fact that he's producing that Neuralink chip basically was quite interesting. He spoke about that and how in the future, the first prototype is basically to help with like issues in the brain, people having like strokes and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting. And then one of the things he said on that podcast that I found quite interesting was how the first prototype is to like help with illnesses and from the brain, and how in the future, like 6 years time, he said that it could be possible that we could communicate without actually moving our lips. So I thought that that's quite interesting, and different languages across the world can communicate. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think would you get the chip? Would
See,
you like being able to communicate with someone?
We've already had this conversation. We're the two weirdos who will go, give us a chip, put a chip in our brain.
I want the chip.
But Sophie, would you, as a normal person, if this chip existed and it was able to give you like kind of superpowers, like being able to communicate without actually moving your mouth because it works on brain waves, would you have a chip put in your brain? Well, it's not in your
Of
brain, but it's
course. I
embedded in
feel
your.
like,
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
of
we have
course.
one life, but why wouldn't we want to see what technology can do? I mean, if without the superpowers, even just being able to communicate with somebody who doesn't speak the language, there's complete
Mhm.
communication block, imagine all the discussions you could have with that person. It would just be an insane amount of knowledge that you'd be able to gain. I don't think I'd want to be the
Mhm.
first. Just putting that out there. Elon, if
That's
you
what
ever
Elon
watch
Musk
this, I
said
don't
as
want to be
well.
the first.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said he was going to yeah, probably not be the first. So the first iteration is going to be for people, as I understand it, with brain damage, like Chloe was saying. So they've had a stroke or a
Mhm.
certain part of the brain has stopped functioning. It can almost, if I'm understanding it correctly, take the part or replace the damaged
Mhm.
part, so you've got a fully functioning brain again.
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't want to be like the beta testers of it, because you guys know what like new technology is like. If you've ever got a new iPhone or something and it just never works, I don't think you want that in your brain. That would be, although I mean it could be
Yeah.
interesting. But
Although it would be great to have Google in your brain. Anybody could apply for any job, really.
but
Although
have you?
we basically are part robot anyway, because we literally don't go anywhere
Yeah.
without our phones, and any piece of information we want, we literally have it in our fingertips. So our generation is like completely different than anyone of the past, because no one had that. No one had the answer to any question at their fingertips like we do now. And I love that.
Mm.
It
Yeah,
saves so much time.
yeah, I think like a lot of people don't, me included, really, forget how much we rely on it and how much we use it.
Yeah.
But it is a part of us, it's about a part of how we figure things out. So having that just one step further doesn't seem too outlandish.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to be the voice of reason, Sophie, and say, "No, don't put a chip in your head. Are you crazy? You're
No,
quite keen on
no
this."
way. No way. I think, as far as that sort of out of the box thinking is, when you look through all of the decades, that's how we got here. Imagine all of the good that could happen if we just opened our eyes to the sciences.
Mhm.
And even as you were saying earlier, Chloe, when you look at your 2 degrees, which one you're going to pursue in a master's, you want to do the more techie stuff because that's the way the world's moving. So if we can
Mhm.
navigate that way, maybe not as invasive as a chip, but all those little steps, I think, we'd be much, much more, smarter and more proactive species, I think. It'd be really cool.
Mhm. Because that's actually one of the things that Elon said in that podcast. Like, we need more people making stuff. We have too many people that want to go on and, you know, work at Wall Street and be lawyers. And there's just not enough people making stuff. And that's what essentially changes the world. So, yeah, it's quite interesting.
That was when he said that, I never thought of it that way, and I realized that's a really good
Mhm.
point. So if you have the smartest brains in the world and they're all working in the law field or the accounting field or something like that, I mean, that's all well and good. But if you want to advance the world, you actually do need people inventing stuff and making stuff.
Mhm.
So scientists, engineers, and things like that. Um, it's funny you mentioned having Google on the brain, though. Like, I don't know if I want Google in the chip that's in my brain, because I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
It seems to be a practical joke recently, and I've been doing it to my brother all the time because he's got an Android phone, and I just need to make sure I don't have and no, I don't. I've got an iPhone. You know how you say, "Okay, Google,"
Mhm.
right, and then it listens to you and does whatever you say. The problem is it can't recognize when it's your voice speaking versus someone else. So whenever my brother's around with his phone, or I just keep saying, "Okay, Google, phone mum," and then it goes, "Phoning mum," and he has to find it, turn it off, and tell it to stop. So I don't like the thought of having the Google chip in my brain, and like someone says, "Okay, Google," and then suddenly I have to. Can you imagine, like, if you had to speak the response, if you had a Google chip in your brain? I'm not so keen on that. But aside from that,
Yeah.
I think it could be a lot of fun. So,
Mhm.
well, that's chips in the brain. So Chloe, when do you have to make a decision about masters, or is that a ways off?
It's
Is
just,
that soon?
yeah, It's just something I've been looking into. I think most applications have to be in by the 30th of this month, so it's just something I'm looking into at the minute. And I think I will do it because it's gonna be a slow year. I know last year was a slow year. This is a slow year. I know I'm probably not going to be going to many places between now and next summer because of the pandemic. So if not now, then when? When's a better time to do it than, during a pandemic when I'll not be traveling the world as often as what I would like to be. So yeah, if there's any time to do it, probably is now, for sure.
Please don't get another dissertation, though. I don't know if I
Yeah,
can
that
survive
comes
you
as part
having
of
another
it.
dissertation.
Yeah, I literally
Sophie, have you
procrastinated for
ever
so
had to
long.
do like a dissertation or something like that, like a really, really big research project for study?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I completely relate to how horrible they are. And I wouldn't choose to do it again at all, ever.
Chloe's had her dissertation hanging over her ever since I've known her. This is actually the first time I've known you, both as an
I've hit it
engineer,
off for its
an
entire year.
engineer, and
I
and
don't
your
blame you.
dissertation.
Even the word is horrible, isn't it?
I know, it's
It's an
such a
icky
horrible.
word.
What does it mean? What dessert? Does it come from the word dessert? I mean, it obviously can't
I
be like
don't
yummy dessert. But
know.
I've never actually thought
It
of
gives
that.
me nightmares.
Gives you nightmare, but I mean, you thought that you'd done it horribly, and yet obviously you did it okay because you passed your degree, so it can't have been as bad as you thought.
I actually haven't received my results yet. I've received that I've passed my degree, but I haven't
That's all that
have
matters.
received my result.
We don't
So
we
yeah,
don't care about the
so
rest.
it probably was horrible, but maybe by luck.
I remember when I was in high school, I was obsessed with the scores that I got. And by
Yeah.
the time I'd finished university, it was just like, oh, I just pass. As long as I pass. It's funny, I don't know if you guys are the same, but, well, I mean, Sophie, what did you do your dissertation on, since we're talking about dissertations?
So I've actually done quite a lot of different things. So I did the basics of CAD for a little while, and then as part of my job, I had to then go on computer aided design, just for anybody who is new to that word.
CAD. Good old CAD, AutoCAD.
It's really cool, but when you're doing floor plans and everything has to be so precise, it kind of takes the the excitement away.
Yeah. People don't want an extra meter of floor or a meter less of floor of their building to be at an angle. So yes, it does need to be precise.
I had to make a car park out of CAD for one of my projects. And I was like in the library all night long doing it with my friends, and we just kept having these system issues. And all of it was a group project, and all our projects were of different sizes, and we were trying to put them all together in the one sheet. And it was just all of us were in the library, like all of us had done the project that day, but we all met up to put them together on the one sheet. And everyone's was different sizes, so we all ended up in the library till like 4 a.m. just trying to get them on.
It was the exact same situation that I was in. It was awful. But one of the first things that we had to do as well was just put you had to basically just put your keyboard into all of the preset code, so you wouldn't even have to look down. You could just, and the lecturer was brilliant. He could just do something. He's like, all you do is this. And then all of us were just sitting there like, wait, we have to do that now, right now? So it took hours to just even set the keyboard up, and that was before you even do the thing. So yeah, it was tough. All of that.
That was our issue. We didn't set up the keyboard, so we were all random sizes, and we just so we were trying to put them in the one sheet, and someone's was tiny and someone's was huge, and oh my goodness.
But do you guys, and I say this because I studied computer science, computer engineering programming in university. Do you guys remember what you felt the first time you opened up AutoCAD or your design program? Because I swear to God, it is the most... Photoshop's pretty bad. I don't know if you guys have ever opened Photoshop, but the first time you open it, there are so many menus with so many options to do things like 99% of the population is never going to need to ever do. CAD's worse. I have no idea what anything in CAD did.
It is.
My, I was just going to say, my issue with CAD is trying to put a template on the drawing. Like, I can draw the drawing, no problem, but see when I'm trying to fit it to a template, like, it should be the simplest thing in the world, but no, I don't know why. I just always find issues
And
sizing it.
for some reason as well, like even now, I cannot remember what the options mean. I have to look down because there's just the words are just so different to what it actually means. I'm like, but why call it that? Why not just call it because that's what the action does. So even now, I'm just like, I click on one of the menus and I'm going down and I'm like, I'm just gonna have to look up every single one of these to remember which route to take again. It's crazy. Whoever designed
can you give us an example? Well, it's designed by computer engineers, which is a really bad thing. You never let programmers design the user interface. The last girl that I interviewed, Ariel, who's an Australian, she's actually an expert in user interface, UI/UX, so user interface or user experience. So her whole thing is designing something that it's intuitive to use. So if you think of something like Airbnb, for example, can you imagine if you wanted to use Airbnb and the first thing you had to do was program the keyboard? I mean, 99% of the population is going to give up. The reason that you and I are so happy to use something like that is it's really easy to use, but that requires expertise behind it to make it really easy to use. Whereas CAD, I open it up. I have no idea what anything does at all.
I just start joining lines.
Yeah, just hope for the best. But that's where the money is, isn't it? If nobody had to learn it, then they couldn't sell classes and you wouldn't need a degree. And, there's so many layers to it, isn't there? So I suppose they've got to make their done somehow.
They say that about law. They say the reason that the law is so complicated, or accounting, because I just did my tax return the other day. It's like, oh, is there any worse experience than doing your tax return? But I mean, I got money back, but still, it's just like soul draining. But the reason that it's so complicated is that you then think you need experts to help you, and then obviously the experts cost money. I mean, and it's hard to argue with that. Like, can you imagine? Because I've had to go through a legal process. I don't know if either of you have had to do that, but lawyers and accountants, lawyers are the only people I know who will charge you for a phone call in 6-minute increments. I don't know why 6 minutes, should be 5 minutes. But can you guys think of any other occupation? And I'm sorry if I'm slagging off lawyers, but I'm not the hugest fan of lawyers because of my personal experience. Can you guys think of any other occupation where you would charge in 5-minute increments and charge someone for a phone call?
No,
a psychic?
Yeah.
Is that
or any
now I'm going to insult psychics as well. Profession. What's a joke about psychics? Like, if you're really a psychic, why do you need to put your number in the newspaper? Because you're psychic. So, you don't need to put an ad up. But I've got a lot of respect for lawyers and accountants because they need to know so much information. It's one of the very few things, I think, that you do still need a degree for. Doctors, lawyers, accountants. Like, you don't want to go to a doctor who's self-taught, right? I mean, that's just not a good idea. But yeah, it's interesting. So, Sophie, you can't think of any of the terms in CAD because it's overwhelming to me. You can't even remember what they're called.
No, it's been probably since I left my job in February 2019. That was the last time I've actually used it.
Wow.
So
okay.
I think the only word I can remember is offset.
Well, there's so many that you can just throw in there and it's a bad memory.
Offset. Well, I understand what offset is, but in CAD, what does it mean?
It just means you get another line and have it perpendicular to the other line.
Oh, well, then why don't they just call it perpendicular?
But this is what I mean. Yeah, you have to write an explanation next to each of the options, and I don't understand why it has to be so different to what it actually does. It just blows my mind.
I wonder if someone could actually take CAD and make it easier to use. I mean, it can't be that difficult.
I think it's fine once you use it. I think you scare yourself about it more, and then when you actually do the project, you're fine. And then afterwards, you can't remember what the hell you did, but at least you passed.
Yeah, every time you start something, it's like starting from scratch again, and you have to get everything out. I ended up getting this, it's like a keyboard overlay, which, once you set your patterns, you just put it on top, so things are a lot easier. And every time I was like, I'll remember this next time, don't need that anymore. And then the next one would come along, I'd be getting it all out again, getting my notes out. So it's not something I even now, I don't think I could do it without notes. It's just even something simple, because it's just over my head.
Same, I literally can't remember either.
If I got you guys to design, I don't know, a house or a car park.
I've done a house. I've done a house and a car park, but I've done a house, I would say 3 years ago, when I did a car park 2 years ago. So still a bit rusty. Maybe a year and a half ago I did the car park, but about 3 years ago I did the house. So
Sophie, how would you go?
I mean, I'd give it my best shot, and we'd see it'd be a bit wonky. It wouldn't be one of these new builds from Red Row. It would be a little bit of a monster, but I think it would be livable.
Yeah.
We've had there's a situation here in Sydney near the airport. The suburb is called Mascot, and they built a new block of apartments, but they're now completely unlivable and worthless because the ground underneath it has started to collapse. So the whole building is sagging and cracking and basically falling apart. And I'm just wondering whether that's because they didn't understand CAD. Like, if it's that difficult to understand, I'm just thinking, no wonder there's, a floor missing here, or a few bricks missing here, or, a steel girder not there. It's because, on CAD, I hit the wrong key. It was really confusing. Sorry. I don't know.
You just hope you weren't the only CAD person, wouldn't you? You'd be like, oh no, that line was Phil. That line was definitely Phil. It wasn't me.
That's the funny thing, though, when you work on a building site. I don't know if you've ever had work experience on a building site or a project, but it's such a blame game. Like, the engineers are pointing at the builders, and the builders are pointing at the engineers, being like, you didn't set it up properly, and they're like, no, you didn't build it properly. And it's literally the blame game. That's the worst part about the construction industry. There's a lot of arguing.
There is. Yeah. I think we were saying just before we went live, I've done the latter end of what Chloe does. So I do the decommissioning of buildings and the removal of all the furniture. And this has to fall into a program of works where you have people who are disconnecting the electricity. You've got people who are dealing with, taking down all the signage. There's so many things that go into it. And if anything at all goes wrong, I remember this one instance, and it sticks in my mind because it was so ridiculous, where there was a stairwell and there was just this ladder going up to the ceiling. Just a ladder, anybody could have moved it, but nobody moved it. Nobody would move it. And for that reason, none of the furniture could come out and nobody could go off or down the stairs for health and safety. So there were phone calls for hours that day, and I was like, can somebody just move the ladder? Nobody wanted the responsibility of taking away somebody else's, role or job. And it's just, site managers, everything is just, it's a tough industry.
So funny.
It's tough to be a woman in that industry. I think you get shouted down a lot.
You don't get taken seriously, and then if you do speak up for yourself, you're considered as bossy. So you just can't win. You're either too soft or you're too bossy. There's just no in between, really, being a woman in the industry. But yeah, the blame game, it totally is. It's like that meme where Spider-Man's pointing at Spider-Man, he's pointing at Spider-Man.
It is. It is. It's
Spider-Man meme?
Do you know the one I'm talking about, Sophie?
I get the gist of it. I don't think I know the exact reference.
Hang on. It's actually the first result in Google. This is the thing that Google is good. Here you go. I'll show you. It was literally a Spider-Man meme, and the first thing that came up was Spider-Man pointing. Hang on. Let me see if I can do this properly again. Share. So everyone's on the same page. All right, here we go. Can you see this? Oh, there's
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
I know
there's
pointing
like
exactly
here.
what
there's
you
ones
mean.
where Spider-Man's pointing at Spider-Man who's pointing at Spider-Man.
I haven't seen the one with loads. That's hilarious.
This one here, if you can't say it, see it says students barely keeping it together this semester, and then professor barely keeping it together this semester.
There's like
That's
one where
pretty
they're
accurate.
like in a big circle as well, and everyone's pointing at each other in the circle. I feel like that's kind of what it's like in the construction industry.
Like this
Yeah,
one here.
Yeah.
that's so true. Oh, that's so accurate.
Whose job is it then to make sure this doesn't happen? Like, whose job is it in theory to actually take charge and make decisions?
Well, there's an overall project manager, but you see the problem I think you have, which is the same in a lot of industries. I mean, look at self-defense. I do self-defense, and it's the same in self-defense. You have a lot of egos, and nobody likes their ego knocked. And so they'll do anything possible to protect that ego. And that includes not admitting when you're wrong. And if somebody
hmm
doesn't admit and put their hands up and say, that was me, guys, it's just a constant circle because you never know the origin of the problem. And without
Mm.
knowing that origin, you don't know who to communicate with to fix it. So although there's a project manager in place, you're so reliant on everybody else doing their own job that you've subcontracted them for. And unfortunately, because there's no real accountability, they won't put their hands up and say that was our error, because of, obviously there's financial cost to that. If you've
Yeah.
messed up on site, you're going to get a bill. Nobody
It's
wants it.
huge.
So it's really difficult.
Okay. And Chloe, this is the one that you want to go into. You want to be the scapegoat, basically. By the sound of it, sounds like the person everyone's going to blame. This is what you want to go into.
No, but people blame the engineers as well because the engineer set something out and like the builder went and built it like over where the engineer set it out. Then they're pointing at each other too because the builder's like, oh, it was the engineer, and the engineer's like, no, it was the builder. And then he's like, oh, the project manager told me to do that. So I think everybody's pointing at everyone. That's why it is the Spider-Man meme. It doesn't matter if I went on site as a civil engineer or project manager. Either way, I'm going to be one of those Spider-Men, regardless.
Is there ever a difficulty in that industry where the builders, because obviously to become a builder, you don't need as much of a formal qualification or formal education as, let's say, an engineer or a project manager. So do those two groups of people ever sort of just fundamentally disagree because the builders don't like the toffee-nosed engineers who think they're so great, and the engineers hate the builders because they never do what they're told, and they just wish they would do what they're told because the engineers go, I know what I'm doing. I've studied for 4 years. Is that ever a thing? Because it sounds like it would
And then
be.
even the engineers and the architects, like an engineer could say to an architect, well, that design's not feasible because the structure
Yeah.
wouldn't stand. So everybody argues, literally everyone. It's just, yeah.
Okay. And this is the field that you want to go into, Chloe, just to clarify.
It's
This is
a
what
bit
you've
late
become.
now.
Dear me. So Sophie, you were saying you deal with the decommissioning. So is that like a house? Is that like a building before it's demolished? Am I on the right track?
It could be, but so it was the finance sector. So it would be a few years ago when all of the HSBC physical sites were closing down, and TSB, RBS, all of those banks, which they no longer wanted to have the front of house for, we would then go in and we decommission them, get them completely ready to then be rented out to whatever business wanted that plot. So we never dealt with the construction of buildings or the demolition. We were out before any of that happened. Right. We had to essentially just make sure that within a project of works, we were doing the right thing at the right time, which wasn't then stepping on anybody else's toes. But the problem that you have, which I'm sure Chloe is so familiar with this issue, is that you'll spend a long time on a program of works, submit it, and then all of a sudden there's a million reasons why that date won't work, or so-and-so can't get to site on that date because of X reason, and then you set a new date. So even the the planning takes so long because nobody can agree. So before you even get to site, people are bickering. So it's a tough industry. Crazy. Yeah, and
it is crazy.
Sorry, Claire.
Oh, I was just going to say sometimes you get like start dates or finish dates where you have to have like the keys ready to hand over and you have to be done with your project. And sometimes there's contracts put in place where you can potentially lose money if your projects, so your company can lose money if the project's not completed on time. Then you also lose bonuses and yeah, there's a lot of money involved and like the time scale is critical. It's really important that everything is done on time in the industry because there's a lot of money lost if it's not. So there's a lot of heated arguments for
Yeah.
sure.
This
And
literally sounds like the nightmare industry for me because, I mean, specifically, you got a lot of money on the line. Money always
Hmm.
makes people stressed. You have
Yeah.
a lot of bureaucratic, like Sophie was saying, bureaucracy rules, toes not to step on, which
Hmm.
just is even worse. And then it's all dealing with people all the time and trying to get people to
Hmm.
communicate. And literally just even a few months ago when I was deciding like which area, like which industry did I want to point to next, one of my
Hmm.
criteria, as much as I love talking to people, one of my
Hmm.
criteria is I don't have to work with people and I don't have to work customer service, just purely from an efficiency perspective. Like, if you think about it, if you go into work and you want to know, okay, if I need to do something, I go and I do it, then I'm done. Anytime
Hmm.
you bring people into the mix, like if you're doing a job where you interface with customers, takes time, right? And not all of them are reasonable. If you are getting groups of people to work together or communicate together, I mean, this is the thing. This is why I hate group work assignments in university because, you know, the stereotype is in a group situation. There's always one person who does all the work. There's one person who
Hmm.
slacks off and wants the marks anyway and is always telling you a sob story about how his mother died. And it's interesting because that's the 10th time his mother has died. Now I'm just confused. So it, it sounds like it's a difficult, like a really, really stressful and thankless industry to go into. Sounds like you need to be really cut out for it if you want to make it in the project management industry, just from an outside perspective, anyway.
it's very cutthroat, I think, as well. Like we were saying, because blame is so easily thrown
Mm.
Hmm.
around, you've got to have a real thick skin because it's not done, I've found with my experience, it's never done behind your back. It's on a conference call. You know, it'll be right
Hmm.
there. They're saying
Well,
it
that's
to
something.
you.
At least they're
Yeah, so
saying it to your face so you can respond to
yeah.
it.
So but it puts you on the spot then because you have to have your answers. They would have thought, you know,
Mm.
who can we pin this on before the call? And
Hmm.
you're on the call, it's thrown at you, and you've got to have
Mm.
your, you know, everything
Thick
there to
skin.
back yourself up. So it's a real difficult industry. But I know we only mentioned it slightly earlier, but for women in particular, I mean, there was one lady who she was a client of ours, and all she was good at her job. But men referred to her as the Rottweiler because she was assertive. And this is
Hmm.
so toxic because all that woman was doing was exactly the same as a lot of men. But she was
Hmm.
very good at her job, very efficient. Things would get done on time. And if somebody wasn't giving her a straight answer, she'd press them for it because you need to. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, in doing that, she got the nickname of the Rottweiler. And things like this just breed in that industry. So it's so important that we encourage more women to go into it just to try
Hmm.
and change the tide. And speaking like this, it's good to speak about what the reality is because it's not easy. But then you look at so many other industries out there, they're not easy either. You've just got to make your footprint, you know, last. So the more women who go into
Yeah.
it, the more it's going to change. It just needs that extra push. But I know, Chloe, you'll crack the whip.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think
I'll get you a whip as a present, and you can actually practice cracking it because it is a skill.
yeah. But I think a lot of it is just intimidation. Once you know you know your stuff, and you're not going to be walked over. It's a threat, isn't it? And I think men who I've worked with in the past saw this particular lady as a threat to their own ego, as I was saying before. They don't want anything to sort of chip away at it. And if a woman puts her foot down in the same way that their colleagues are doing, unfortunately,
Mm.
because she's the lone woman in the situation, it's pinned on that.
Hmm.
It's weird It's weird hearing that. Like I completely understand it, and I know what you're saying. It's just in any situation where I'm at, I don't look at is it a woman or a man that I'm having a conversation with. I treat each person as an individual, which I think is
Hmm.
slightly unusual. I think these days there's a lot of emphasis on tribalism, which means your group identity is the first and foremost thing that I see you through. So, you're with politics, you're either on the left or you're on the right. You're a Democrat or you're Republican if you're in the US. And I'm like, I very rarely find those discussions to be productive because as soon as you say, oh, you're a Democrat, then you get attacked, or you're a Republican, you get attacked. Um,
Hmm.
but I think, and this is coming through to pageantry, women have to jump through so many more hoops in
Hmm.
certain industries. And when it comes to judgment, and I've had this argument, I would say debate, because I do love a constructive debate. I think that's something that we're really missing in society, where people can actually say, I don't agree with you, and this is why, and people don't take offense to it. I really think we need more of that so that we can move our society forwards. But for example, the thing that really annoys me is marital status being part of pageantry. So let's say there are two
Yeah.
Sophies, right? One, and Sophie doesn't have to agree with me on this. I'm okay with that. I know Chloe agrees with me, at least
Hmm.
partially. But let's say there are two Sophies, so I clone them, right? And they're both going to Supranational or whatever pageant, and there's a requirement that she needs to be single or not married. And to me, I don't understand it. Like if there are two women exactly the same age, same skills, same everything, one's
Hmm.
married, one's not. And we're not even talking about having a child. Just one's married, one's not. Suddenly one can enter, let's say, Miss Universe, and the other
Hmm.
can't.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, I've got no judgment on it anyway, other than I can't think of any other industry where it's legal to be discriminated against based on your marital status. I mean,
Yeah.
just on that point, can you guys think of any other industry where I could say I'm not going to hire you because you're married? Is that a thing? Are you allowed to do that?
Even if you look at our Miss Universe Ireland, Nadia, this year, she was incredible. She is an absolute queen and she did the most amazing job. So by this time next year, she'll be married. What's
Mm,
Nadia this year? What's the difference between Nadia this year and Nadia next year? How come she was able to do it this year, but if it had been next year, she wouldn't be allowed to? She's still the same amazing girl, and she's not going to look any different between this year and next year. So, like,
mm,
why stop people who's married from doing it? Because they're missing out on some incredible people that could be representing their countries.
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
I was about to say. They're missing out on such a huge, huge amount of women who do such good things. They stand for exactly the same things that we do. And
Hmm.
I think this relates a lot to, I mean, I have very strong views about the facets of feminism that I stand for because I have small issues when feminism is twisted to
Hmm.
the extent where they speak on behalf of the entire population of women to say, well, Santa Claus should be a woman now. I don't believe the spotlight needs to be there. For women, in terms of equality, we've got to stop focusing on
Hmm.
minor things such as marital status. That's such a minor thing. When you think about what a pageant stands for, it stands for empowerment
Hmm.
of women. So what if you have a ring on your finger? It doesn't take you away any of your worth. It doesn't make you less of a woman, an independent woman. When you get married, you're still two individual people pursuing two different things in life. Yes, you can unite to have support, commitment. That's what marriage is all about, but it doesn't take away from who somebody is. So, in terms of the evolution of pageantry, I think it has come a long way, but we still need to encourage it to take more steps. And if we hadn't
Hmm.
encouraged the very first steps, they wouldn't have happened either. So, the more that
Hmm.
we can talk about these things, the more we can influence the industry to move in that direction. Because there's still so many people who would see this exact conversation as a reason to cancel all pageants, and that wouldn't be the right solution to it. The
No.
solution is
No.
change. So we need
And
to
there's so
Yeah.
start
many.
igniting that.
Yeah, and there's so many women that hold off their weddings too. They're waiting for their dream title. They're going back year after year and they're determined to get there. And for that reason, they're holding back on getting engaged or holding back on having their weddings. And it's quite sad because, you know, that's what their heart's in. They really want to, but they're afraid to because they're scared in case they'll lose their dream title if they get married. It's quite sad.
Yeah. Well, I think there was an example just a few months ago. I can't remember which pageant it was. It was abroad, and
Yeah.
the winner. Do you remember this? The winner. She got her crown snatched off of her by her predecessor. Because she was claiming that she was married and somebody involved in this cannot be married or divorced, I think it was.
Yeah,
Was it
I
Mrs.
remember
World
seeing it.
Singapore or something?
I think
But
it might have been in Singapore. I think it was India for some reason comes to mind, but I
Yeah.
do remember reading that story. Yeah.
but she attempted to strip her just moments
Mm.
after she'd had the crown on
Yeah.
her head. She attempted to
Yeah.
strip it from her on a rumor that she was divorced. It shouldn't matter if she was divorced. Things like this are so
Yeah.
insignificant in women's worth. It's just beyond me that it's something which is used against women, within such a woman strong community as well.
If anything, going through a divorce would make a woman incredibly strong because that must be one of the hardest decisions and
Decisions.
situations. Yeah, I confused myself because I said decisions and situations that someone could be in. So, yeah,
The
fair play to
situations.
that woman.
The thing
Yeah.
I like everything that Sophie said with, I agree with. The issue that I found, because I feel like I'm one of the only people who speaks up on this, and the reason I don't speak up about it more is because it's a great way of garnering a lot of hatred towards you. And, I don't need that most of the time, but I feel it's still an important discussion to be had. And what Sophie said, I absolutely agree with. What I found is if I say it that way, then people get all up in arms and they want to come and debate you, right? But what the simple question that I have, and I don't think anyone's come to given me a good answer to this, is if you do agree that marital status is such a big thing that it should determine whether you're in a pageant or not, why don't men have to answer the same question? That's the thing, like, just rock bottom, I don't understand. Like, if it really is, if you believe it's such a big issue that yes or no comes down to just your marital status, I don't remember as a man in any field ever being a thing. Oh, it's like, oh, we're thinking about hiring you as our CEO of this Fortune 500 company, but you're married. No, you probably have to spend time with your kids and, spend time with your wife. You won't have as much time. You won't be focused, so we can't hire you. I mean, if you said that to a man, like a Fortune 500 CEO, you'd probably be sued for saying something like that. And I think rightly so. I think it's up to the individual, because the argument that I did see, and this is from a major, major pageant, I'm not going to mention the name, on international level, but the argument was basically that if a woman is married, she's not going to be able to put in the time. That was, paraphrasing, that's a general argument. My answer to that is, surely it's up to your title holder to demonstrate whether she's able to or not. It's not for you to say that she can't do it because she's married and therefore she has less time. And the worrying thing for me is that it's a woman saying that. Because very often, because Sophie was talking about feminism, and very often it's like women shouting at men. Sometimes it's women as well who have what I would classify, say, sort of outdated conceptions or misconceptions about a woman, about what a woman can do and can't do based on her marital status. Sophie, you look like you wanted to say something just there.
Yeah, I think just touching base on the reality of some women do have very militant views on what women should be able to do. I do think that this is such a layered issue because it's not something that we can speak of lightly. Because when I look back to myself, say 10 years ago, and the influences I had, if I had never ventured out, if I hadn't had access to different points of view, different opinions, my parents are incredibly inclusive people, so I'm very lucky. But there could be somebody who lives next door to me who hasn't had any of that. So we can't really put blame on that individual who has grown up and has been molded by what we fed into them, not us personally, but by their environment. And it's the environment that needs to change. So it's not so much blaming an individual, it's blaming what's formed them, what shaped them, because whatever that is going to shape more generations of that same belief system. And so that's the level that I think needs to be tackled. We can't say to another person, you're wrong, because they don't understand. They've grown up around such different values, such different realities, that they won't understand what we're saying, just as we're baffled as to why they still think that way. So it's a much deeper sort of environmental and circumstantial issue that is bred into somebody from a young age. And that's why the more we talk about things, not just in this country, in England or Australia, but also this is why international pageants are such a great platform, because whether you like them or not, some people who don't like them are still going to watch it. And the more that they can see unity in one belief system, you know, the forward thinking of the pageant industry, hopefully those small snippets that they see will start to sink in, and they could then themselves start to reason or have a bit of conflict with their own belief system. But when I think about, say, for example, pageant trolling, because that happens a lot. And you think, you know, if you're truly a pageant lover...
I've never seen any of that, Sophie. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen any trolls in pageant land.
But you think, you know, if you're truly a pageant lover and you want to support these women, then how can you tear them down so easily? And again, it's circumstantial to that individual. We don't know what's made them do it. And if you ask them directly, it would just be defensive. So there's so much more around the issue of an individual, and that applies to women as well. I think the more understanding that we can spread, the easier it will be for people to change their minds.
Yes, sorry, Chloe. There's a quote that's just coming to mind. I can't remember the exact quote, so I'm going to butcher it horribly. But it's to the basic point of it is that the greatest tragedy in the world is that the intelligent people are very uncertain, and that the stupid people are very, very certain. Which I take to mean, I think a sign of intelligence is, yes, you have your beliefs. Like Chloe has her beliefs, Sophie has her beliefs, I have my beliefs. But I think a part of intelligence is always being able to hold in your head the idea that I could be proven wrong at any time. Like, we used to believe the world was flat. Some people still believe the world is flat. That's another issue completely, right? But I think the people who are never willing to even entertain the idea that, hang on, I have this belief, but it could be wrong. It's what Sophie was saying about the environment, but I also think there's a fundamental, there's one quality that I think you need. It's, as what I said, constructive debate, which is if you've ever tried to debate someone who just will never admit that they're wrong. I mean, we talked about blame before. There's no point. I mean, it's literally banging your head against a brick wall. So I think fundamentally, one of the qualities that we really need is the courage to say, yeah, this is my belief, and I believe it very strongly because X, Y, Z, but equally, I could also be wrong. And maybe in a conversation with you or with you or with you, as happens in international pageants, because you've got women coming from different countries, hugely different, I mean, both of you would know, hugely different perspectives. And one could be a doctor, one could be a lawyer, one could be, you know, a receptionist, one could be whatever. And you get all that melding pot. And I just think it's a shame when you get something like that and people get so defensive about their beliefs that you can't have that discussion. But that also, as to what Sophie was saying about the pageant trolling, it's a shame because normally that trolling, from my experience, I don't know if you guys are different, it almost always comes down to the girl's physical appearance and, oh, it's a cooking show. It's never about, oh, what does this woman actually do for a living or her job? Why does she do that? It's always, oh, she's not pretty enough. Oh, she's too short. She's too fat. She didn't walk right. I'm like, I thought pageantry wasn't supposed to be about that. So I'm just confused why your only criticism as to why this woman didn't win is because she's, I mean, Chloe will know who I'm referencing here, but one of our friends was called Miss Pregnant because she was at an international pageant and she wasn't a size 0. She's not even a plus size model. She's just not even normal. She's size incredible.
8. She's the same size as me. Like, it's...
Yeah, she's fit, right? And she's strong and she's healthy. And yet she's called Miss Pregnant. that's part of it, to be honest, and this is why I say, and I don't want the pageant industry to disappear. I bring these issues up because I want it to evolve so that it actually comes back round again, and lots of people want to enter it. My frustration is that is objectively not happening. I've told Chloe this, Sophie, I don't know if I've told you this, but the interest in pageants, if you look at it, it's like at an all-time low, pretty much.
Yeah.
Out of 100
sad.
at the moment, it's like 18 or something like that, whereas 100 was back in 2004.
2010. All right, sorry. It was quite high around 2010 as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It goes up and down, but it's trending downwards, right? It's like one of those things, if you have Bitcoin and you open up and you go, oh crap, bang, like that. So my thing is, if you're in that industry and you want to keep doing it, whether you're a director or a participant, and you're seeing that interest in it's going down, surely your thinking needs to be, we need to change, right? Because if you're going, no, it's fine the way it is, or the changes that we've made are enough, to me, it's kind of like you're on the Titanic. You've hit the iceberg and you are not going to get off because you're saying, no, we're not sinking.
And it's the age limit for me as well. I just don't understand it. Like, I know women in their 30s who are more than capable of winning an international pageant, incredible women. And they look just as incredible and just as young as a 20-year-old. So I don't see why they're not eligible to do it. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, why use 28, for example, as a cutoff age when there's women that are 35 that could easily take home the title? I just don't get it.
Yeah, inclusivity is the key to the revival, 100%, because the more you can open it up to people, the less attacks will sort of focus in on the negatives. When you look at what gets the news, it's nothing good. There's never, look at this woman who's just won an international pageant. She's a lawyer. She has XYZ degree. There's nothing. You don't even see their community work on the news. You see nothing like that. The only thing that'll hit it would be, the wrong person got crowned accidentally. I think we all know what we're talking about there, Miss Universe. And poor Colombia then had it taken off of her. But look how big that was. That one moment. And nothing about either of those women was highlighted. Nothing about what they've done, their accolades, any of their hard work in the lead up. And so if there's just a few key figures in the media who can spin it, that would help so much. But to help ourselves, we need to keep pushing for progression. And that progression is, as both of you have said, is removing some of the militant rules that are in place with no real substance behind them.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Substance. I've always said, you are free to have whatever rules you want. I'm okay with it. In a pageant, if you want everyone to just do bikini or do the whole thing in bikini, I'm okay with it as long as you are transparent about your reasoning. And I think that sometimes it's what's really sorely missing is, you say that, you're doing, let's say you're doing the swimsuit section because it's empowering. Like, I'm okay with that, right? And I actually, to be clear, I used to think very differently about the swimsuit section until I interviewed 200 of you, and the vast majority of you actually find the swimsuit section hugely empowering. Now, there is a subset that doesn't, right? And they never want to do a swimsuit section again. But I think it would be great if we could actually make it okay in our industry to actually say, hey, I didn't like this because. Whereas what I've seen, my experience has been, it's a very top-heavy industry. So if you think of the food industry, for example, right, the customers are in charge. If Chloe goes to her local restaurant, eats the food, doesn't like it, she can complain. She can write a bad Yelp review.
That.
I know, but you can, right? And there are people who do that. And then something has to change because the customer is in charge. So it's like a pyramid, the right way up. Whereas I found in pageantry that pyramid is actually, a lot of the time it's inverted, where I had a specific example of a young Canadian girl who went to do an international pageant. She was flying from Canada, I think, to Latin America. So it's quite a ways to go. She's young, and she insisted on having a female chaperone so that she feel more comfortable. She was promised a female chaperone, I think you can see where this is going, by her national director, ended up being paired with a male chaperone who was highly inappropriate, to the extent where she felt so uncomfortable, she left without competing in the pageant, booked her own flight to go back home because she felt that uncomfortable. Now, she messaged me that in confidence. She doesn't want to bring that up publicly because she's been threatened with legal action by the national director. And sometimes these are written in your contracts, like, oh, you're not allowed to say anything bad, which boggles my mind. But that's what I mean. I feel like sometimes it's top heavy where it's a director who's in charge. Whereas I've always said the two things I advocate for, one of them, the most important one, is that put the girls first, which I would like to see happen more often. So I don't care what happens. It's not about putting the sponsor's interests first or the director's interests first. The girls, first and foremost, have to be looked after. And I understand it's a business. I'm not naive to that. But I just think it's a bit of a weird situation where it's top heavy, where you guys sometimes have things you want to say or discuss. Like Sophie, we're talking about feminism. I call feminism the other F word because it's a very prickly topic to talk about. And it's not really brought up that much in pageant Q&A or interviews. It's almost seen as, oh, or ask her the tricky question about feminism. I would like all of you guys to have, men included, watching, to have really, really well thought out beliefs about feminism, what it is, equality, what it is, what do you believe in, what do you not believe in? Because I would like, frankly, for people like Sophie, who's in the run to an international pageant, obviously intelligent, got well-formulated beliefs, I would like to see more of those beliefs come out and be the discussion. I mean, don't get me wrong, like what color dress are you wearing is, okay, cool. And the dress does look amazing. The national costume hopefully will look amazing. But it's just like, at a certain point, it's like, we need more of a discussion than what color is your dress going to be? That annoys me a little bit when you bring on the most intelligent, amazing woman. So what color is your dress going to be? And that's the level of the conversation.
Yeah, 100%. And I think when you look at, I mean, they're fun. You know, I've been on quite a lot of interviews with, especially like pageant fan pages and things, and it's nice to speak to people and, you know, interact and everything. But I think one of the things, not just in pageantry, I think this is a wider sort of issue, but in the general population, I think women aren't encouraged to have views on feminism because feminism is now a blacklisted term. You know, they say that if you're a feminist, then you're not going to shave your armpits or your legs, or you hate all men. It's not really equality you want. And actually, this is just a minority of people who, because they're so extreme, have the platform in the media on Good Morning Britain this morning, and it takes away from what the actual meaning of feminism is and what so many of us believe in. And this noise, I mean, I talk about noise quite a lot because it's just white noise that covers real issues. And so by saying that on Good Morning Britain, they're going to have a 15-minute segment on the feminist who disagrees that James Bond should be a man. Whereas why can't on Good Morning Britain, why can't they, instead of using that time with that feminist, why can't they take a feminist point of view from a woman talking about in the UK where there's, I mean, huge amounts of women from certain cultures, from certain backgrounds, who are sold to men for marriage. This still goes on here. There is still slavery of women in the UK. Why can't those 15 minutes be used to talk about that? Why does it have to be so novel and so extreme that it puts the term in jeopardy and nobody wants to claim it anymore? So that's something which I think affects not just pageantry. You know, it's very difficult to voice things about feminism, especially in pageantry, because there's so many arguments against why you should compete in a pageant in the first place. But in general, if we could talk about it more in realistic terms, it would make it so much easier to then voice those on stage to millions.
Yep,
I agree.
I completely agree. I mean, yeah, it's. And I've already said that I feel that the industry needs to evolve because it's on the decline rather than going up. And I think one of the things that we do need to figure out as an industry, and I do mean as an industry, like you guys need to figure it out. The people who do interviews need to figure it out, and the people who are directing need to figure it out, is what is the point of pageantry? And I think that's a question that I've been asking myself repeatedly over the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's like, what are we actually here to do? Because I'm not actually sure there's a clear answer. I don't know if you guys have any ideas or whether you thought about it. But I mean, as I understand it, pageantry initially, the very first pageants were, I think P.T. Barnum had something to do with it back in the day. And he would have young, pretty, available, so single girls. And the idea was they were the original influencer. You would represent a city, and because everyone saw you and thought you looked great and were amazing, they would then go to your city because, oh, you represent the city. Every girl in the city must look like that. I'm going to go to that city, New York, Chicago, whatever it is. So that's what it was then. And now the industry definitely has changed, right? You look at there are different types of pageants now. So there's plus size pageants, not my favorite term, but let's leave that there. There are pageants for women that have no age limits. There are pageants that have no on-stage judgment. It's based purely on charity and or public speaking. So we are trying to evolve, but I kind of go, if that's the direction we're going, I'm not clear what pageantry is anymore. And that's not an accusation. I really don't know. And I said this to Chloe, like when I saw Universe, I really liked the show because it didn't pretend to be something that it's not. And by that, I mean, it's a show. It's like what Victoria's Secret Angels, rest in peace, VS Angels used to be. It was like there for a show. And that's what it is. And the girls are still amazing. You don't make this assumption that, oh, because she looks pretty, she's stupid. No. But I'm not clear what pageantry wants to be if it's not that. That's what I get confused about. Is it going to be a public speaking competition? Is it going to be an advocacy competition? Like, do you guys have any thoughts on what the purpose of pageantry now is supposed to be? Because I find it very confusing.
I feel like with pageantry, a lot of girls that enter pageants are actually quite good role models for younger girls. There's lots of girls, like you said, lawyers, doctors, engineers, and it's kind of encouraging the younger generation that yes, you can be beautiful, and yes, you can also achieve a career and you can do it all. Whereas some other industries, such as Instagram, influencers, YouTubers, like all these kids, TikTok stars, they look up to these other role models who aren't really encouraging them to be their full selves. Yes, they're encouraging them to be pretty, but I feel like being a pageant girl, you're giving the younger girls that more depth that, yeah, you can do all those things. Yes, you can excel in social media and do modeling and pageants, but you can also have a career and you're a lot more than your looks. And there's a lot more to you as a person, and there's a lot more avenues that you could explore and that you could encourage a little girl on, what she decides to study at college and be an influence, like be a real influencer. I think pageant girls actually, we talk about influencers and this is the influencer generation. Why not influence them to, like we said earlier, create things, go down routes like engineering and software development, and why don't we be that voice? And I feel like pageantry is that voice because we're basically the voice of women who can do it all.
Yeah, I completely echo that. I think Chloe's spot on. But also when you look at sort of saying why is it here? Why do we still enter? What is the purpose? Each of us kind of take away something different every time. Like when I first joined, it was a prompt to say to my niece, look, but your Auntie Sophie can do it. Anybody can do that. You know what I mean? Like it's just to say that I'm a normal person. I could be there too. It's not about ego, which I think a lot of people who aren't familiar with the industry, perceive. It's, you gain so many different things from it in different ways throughout the years. And even we influence, hopefully in a positive light, young girls and even boys. But hopefully as well, we can influence people the same age as us and older, not just in terms of, fitness. There's a lot of people who are, amazing bodies and, they live in the gym and things like that, promoting a healthy lifestyle. That's all part of it, of course. But other than that, it's life experience. You're voicing yours to make somebody else's life that little bit more relatable and easy. And I think that's something that's missing. So whatever pageantry was a decade ago, it's not how I see it. And it's not how a lot of my family see it now. Well, all of my family, they're so supportive because they know that my intentions from entering are sort of beyond myself. I have purpose to be there. And I think that's something a lot of women have. So what it gives them is a platform for their purpose. And to have the ears of women from around the world is such a rare thing in today's world. You can type something online, but again, there's how many billions of accounts, how much, we're completely bombarded with. This is one surefire way to get to the ears of people when you have something that you want to say.
But I completely agree with what Adrian said as well about, enjoying the show with Miss Universe and having that entertainment factor. I feel like that is important too in pageantry. Make it fun, make it theatrical. I know that whenever I went to Grand, like a lot of the girls make the national costume section very theatrical. I noticed that this year as well at Universe. So just having that element to make it fun and lighthearted and know that all those girls are there having a journey of a lifetime, making friends that they're going to have by their sides for the rest of their lives. Like when I went to Grand in 2017, I met a few of my best friends that I've ever met in my life, and we still keep in touch every day. And I feel so blessed that I've had that experience purely on the basis that I've met my friends from around the world, and I would never change that. So it's about growing. It's growing as a person and growing your friend group, and you never know where you may end up in the world because you can travel the world with your new friends and you create contacts, and you're helping yourself grow as a person. And everyone that you meet in your path, you're supposed to meet them and evolve from that. So I think that it's all about the experience as well. It's almost a dream come true.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think Sophie has dropped out. I think there she goes. I think we've been talking too long because her phone has died. I'll take that as a sign we've been this is something that I know I've spoken to you a lot about, Chloe, and I have a lot of thoughts about it because I thought about it so much. But I do think we need the show, as you said, because if you don't have the show, the thing is no one's going to watch. And if no one watches, people go, so what? I don't care if anyone watches. But if no one watches, then the industry can't survive. It's like any other business. You need people who are watching you to see what, there's no point being an influencer when no one's listening to what you're saying, because then who are you influencing? No one. So I think it's finding that sort of fine line between being an influencer, so knowing how to build up your followers and deciding what you stand for and what you don't stand for, but then still taking it not so seriously, so you can still put on a good show. I think you need both.
Like I remember one of the things you pointed out the last day too was the girls that are on stage looking like they're having the most fun. That's the most enjoyable to watch. The girls that that are there having a great time. That's the memories that they're going to have for the rest of their lives. It's probably going to be one of the most precious memories they ever have is walking on an international stage. Enjoy it and just make memories for life, and people will enjoy it with you as they watch along.
You saw Nadia, had an amazing time at Universe, and when she walked on stage with her wings, she said that was her Victoria's Secret moment. So she completely enjoyed it. She was at Universe, but no one's ever going to say that Nadia is, not intelligent or doesn't have career ambitions or anything like that. So I think that's probably the bad old days of pageantry, if I can call it that, where just because a girl was pretty, you assumed, or men probably assumed that she was stupid. And I hopefully that we've come away from that. I'll just see if Sophie jumps back on or whether her phone's completely dead. Deborah here, who I assume Deborah is probably Sophie's mum, has said when the NHS was founded, nurses were not allowed to marry and had to leave their job when they did. I did not know that.
That's crazy.
It doesn't make any sense to me now, but I guess back then it would have made a lot more sense, right? Everything has to evolve, and pageants have changed focus from where they began, and women will continue to drive change through promoting diversity and equality of opportunity. Yeah. I think I need to give more thought to what pageantry is, because I think I remember when I asked people what they thought needed to change in pageantry, and someone that I
Hmm.
know commented that the reason pageantry is not as popular as it was before is because the public is too close-minded,
Hmm.
that they don't understand what we're trying to promote. I think the issue with that is if you blame the public, then that's never going to change. So I think the industry needs to
But
evolve to a point where the public do want to get involved. You can't just call them closed-minded.
But you can't say that people don't want to watch it either because of the likes of the swimsuit section, because we have people like Instagram influencers and they've got millions of followers because they post bikini pics.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
fine line. So you can't say that that's going out of style as well because it's not.
Well, I mean, the thing that I have with that is the Miss World America, not the Miss World America, but the Miss America organization, right?
Hmm.
They had a couple of scandals and whatnot, and I think it was only 2 or 3 years ago they ditched the swimsuit section completely,
Yeah.
right? Now they do like an activewear section or something like that. So if the argument is that people don't want to watch a swimsuit section, then what you should see is after they ditched the swimsuit section, that their viewership went up. And
Hmm.
instead, it went straight back down. So you're right. Like the viewership
Hmm.
numbers bear that out. People do want to see that because I think they want to watch a show. And I think if we lose that aspect of it, like if we just become super serious about it, I mean,
Hmm.
that could be the new form of pageantry, but I think it'd be a bit of a shame because I'm not sure it's
Yeah.
something that I'd want to watch, you know. Um, just speaking for myself. I mean, that's my personal opinion. We've lost our guest. Oh well. Oh no, here she comes. Nope, we've lost her again. Okay, well we'll try
Um,
we'll try and stay on just long enough for her to come back and say goodbye. Chloe, in the meantime, whilst we wait for our guests to come, it's just down to two of us now. Started with four, now we're down to two. What have you got coming up in the next week or so?
the next week's going to be a quiet one for me. I've got my best friend since I was three's birthday on Saturday. So I'll spend some time with her. She's just recently passed her driving test as well, so lots to celebrate with her. And apart from that, I'm just working, trying to figure out where to go next in terms of university. And yeah, just taking every day as it comes, like enjoying life and just being grateful.
Oh, you had your second jab, didn't you?
I did. I did. I had it on Friday, and for the second time, I had side effects. So that day when I got it, I had a headache, and then I also had the shivers all day. And then I got home, and then I felt like I did a full body workout as if I'd just been beat up, like both arms and both legs. Um, yeah, I just felt like I'd been at a boot camp or something. And then I like woke up like in a pool of sweat the next day, but totally fine. I must have like sweated it out in my sleep on Friday night, thank God, because it meant that I was better for Saturday. And yeah, thank God. But
So it
yeah,
literally
that's
only
the thing.
lasted
I
that day.
actually had
Like
a
the side effects only lasted
yeah,
that day. Next day you were
when I
fine.
had my yeah, my first vaccine, my side effects lasted 2 days. But yeah, I had a lot of people message me because I had up a story asking if anyone else had these similar side effects. And a
Yeah.
good few people actually wrote back to say that was the symptoms they had when they actually had COVID. So it's quite
Mm.
bizarre because I'm thinking to myself, if I got these symptoms, if I by just having the vaccine, I wonder how hard I would have got it if I actually had got COVID. But
Yeah.
no one of my family had these symptoms. My parents were great. My nana was great. I just think everyone's
Oh,
immune
okay.
systems is different and people deal with
Yeah.
it differently. But I recommend getting it. Everyone totally get the vaccine. We all have to look out for each other. It's been a long year and a half, so just yeah, just take it.
Yeah.
It's worth
Yeah.
the 24 hours of sickness if it saves a
I
life.
I can't remember what it was like before COVID. I really can't. I can't remember before we
I
joked
don't
about
think
people sanitizing their hands or wearing face masks. I used to joke about that. I don't
can
anymore.
you can you actually think about one day where you haven't heard the word COVID? since COVID began. I don't think there's one day where someone hasn't mentioned COVID or I haven't seen a sign saying wear a mask, COVID, hand sanitizer, COVID. Like I've seen it or I've heard it every single day since I would say February last year, because that's when
Hmm.
we started hearing about possibly January last year. Every day since I've heard the word COVID or Corona.
Yep. Yep.
It's
And
crazy.
I thought that Australia was kind of done with it, and then we had a little outbreak in Melbourne, and now we're worried about an actual outbreak in Sydney. So again, face masks have become mandatory on public transport, and in certain indoor areas in certain municipalities, and it's like, oh, I thought we were done with this. And it's screwing up with Miss World Australia because
Oh
the
no.
national finals of Miss World Australia are supposed to be in like 2 weeks, and the Victorian team wasn't able to, the judges weren't able to travel to New South Wales to do the judging. So the New South Wales girls, where I'm from, still
Oh,
haven't
I
had their
can't hear
state
you.
finals.
Oh, can
Oh,
you
you
not
can't
hear
hear us?
us?
We can hear you.
Hello?
Hello? I would tell Sophie to jump off and jump back on, but she can't hear us. But yeah, no, Corona is, I'm done with it. I'm going to go get my jabs. I can now
Yeah.
book mine in. You guys are ahead of us in terms of getting jabbed. But yeah, we'll give Sophie a couple more minutes to see if she can jump on and actually hear us. But I'm glad to hear that the symptoms only lasted about a day or so. Which one did you get?
Yeah.
Do you know? Which
The
vaccine?
Pfizer. So
The
yeah,
Pfizer.
most
Okay.
people that get side effects usually get the AstraZeneca. So it was
Oh,
just a
okay.
bit strange that I had it with the Pfizer, but a few people do get it. Everyone reacts to it different. And yeah, I just feel grateful to be honest that I've had the opportunity to
Mhm.
have my vaccine. So it's worth sticking out.
Are you okay with needles?
Yeah, that part doesn't bother me at all. I don't feel it um at all. But it's more, the side effects that I was getting that night was probably not the
Fair enough.
best.
Fair
I just don't
enough.
like
All right.
muscle pain. I
Well,
I
I
was
don't think
getting back pain
anybody
as
does.
well. It's quite
Like an
bad.
old woman. It's just lying
Yeah.
in bed. Everything's a bit achy. Um, how's your hand now? Has your hand healed up? Are you still in
Yeah, it
the?
actually looks so much better now.
Ooh, you heal quickly.
How
Just a couple of
crazy.
bruises.
I
Well
know.
done.
I know.
Is it feeling okay?
Okay.
Like it feels like a normal hand again now?
It's fine, but I can't like touch it directly. If I touch it directly, then I get this weird feeling. Or if I clap my hands, I get this really weird feeling. I can't explain it. It's like do you know like when
Well,
you hit your funny bone?
yeah, the the
That's
the,
kind of
the
what it feels
tingly
like when
sensation.
yeah. That's what it's like if I
Mm.
touch it or I clap my hands. How crazy is that?
You
But
just
I
have
can
to
like
not clap
lift
your
heavy
hands then.
things. I've lifted weights in the gym. I've did like push-ups with my whole body weight. Doesn't hurt, but when I clap my hands, weirdly it
Mm.
hurts.
Well, just don't
Yeah.
get excited then, because every time you get excited, you clap your hands. So you'll just have
I
to not get
know.
excited. You're just gonna set it
When
off.
you're happy and you know it, don't clap your hands.
Maybe clap your feet or something else. Okay. I think Sophie is gone. That's a shame. I was really enjoying our chat. But I'm sure Sophie would say bye-bye and best of luck to Sophie. I mean, she's going overseas in a couple of months, so it's still a little bit a while away, but not too far away. I wanted to ask her how she was feeling this far out, but I'm sure she's got everything under control. But Chloe, as the last person standing, thank you for your time.
Alonzi.
Oh dear. Okay. Who's the current doctor?
Judy
Is it
Whittaker.
okay? She's still the doctor. Okay, I haven't I
Yeah.
haven't watched since David Tennant left Allonsy. Okay. Thanks to everyone for watching, whether it's live or on the replay, and obviously thanks to Sophie and her time. And we will speak to you next week. Bye for now. Thanks for watching. Just a reminder to you entrepreneurial types to come and join us at our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/the Pageant Boss. I'll see you inside and see you in the next episode.